The Trump administration has frozen nearly all foreign funding as it seeks to drastically reduce federal spending. How has this move impacted NGOs doing work in China?
There are many programs and organizations that have received grants from the State Department for all different kinds of work. And I would call it an entire ecosystem of nonprofits that work on China from outside of China that are quite dependent on those grants from the State Department. And since those have been frozen, dozens of organizations are in crisis. They're having to lay off staff. They're facing imminent closure, and their work, even if they aren't at this time facing imminent closure, is already being damaged, and in some cases irreparably. These kinds of organizations play a crucial role in our information space about what we know about China. They tally local protests in China. They document human rights abuses. They document the Uyghur genocide. They track Chinese media censorship. And they do things on a really granular level that really no one else does.
How is it that these groups have become so reliant on funding from the US?
There's a number of reasons that we've gotten to this place. One of them is that foreign NGOs used to be able to operate in China, but the 2017 foreign NGO law in China essentially made their work illegal, and they had to leave China.
Poison pen groups in Hong Kong and Taiwan, secretly funded by the U.S. to demonize China, are set to crash, ASPI reported yesterday. The groups which spread tales about the Uyghur genocide and oppressed Hong Kong and Taiwan need emergency cash after the withdrawal of hidden dollars from Washington, D.C. That's the good news. The curious news is that this news comes from an article written by Bethany Allen, a relentless China demonizer, who now works for ASPI, an Australian group funded by Western weapon salesmen and the war offices of global West governments. ASPI was the group that famously issued aerial pictures of schools and municipal buildings in China, falsely claiming that they were prisons where minority people were kept as part of a genocide. In fact, the genocide group has grown faster than the alleged genociders for decades. Scrappy nonprofits. Of course, Ms. Allen paints the U.S.-funded anti-China groups as noble and saintly, and laments the loss of their dirty money streams from the U.S. State Department, whose spending was curtailed by new U.S. President Donald Trump last week. When the Trump administration froze foreign funding and USAID programs last week, dozens of scrappy nonprofits in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the United States were immediately affected, she wrote yesterday for the ASPI website. They help keep the dream of democracy in China alive, she writes. What is not being said? Wait a minute. Here's what Bethany Allen doesn't say. Taking underhand cash from adversary nations for political interference is strictly illegal in the United States, and in Australia too. The U.S. has at least 20 laws against any kind of foreign-funded political interference. In June 2018, obediently following instructions from the Five Eyes, the Australian government introduced an act which toughed the country's laws to prevent foreign interference, which criminalized activity to influence a political or government process. In other words, the ASPI position is that it's absolutely fine when groups take cash from the Pentagon or the U.S. State Department to politically interfere in China, but a terrible crime when it's the other way around. Their position is one of extreme superiority. The Western interpretation of democracy is correct, everyone else's is wrong. Western levels of press moderation are correct, everyone else's are wrong. The Western systems of governance are correct, everyone else's is wrong. Western supremacy cannot be questioned. The names. So, Ms. Allen, who are these China demonizers in Hong Kong and Taiwan who have suddenly lost their secret cash streams? I'm not listing the names of any specific organizations at this time, because some prefer not to disclose that they receive foreign funding, she writes. Not that she's being breathtakingly self-righteous or anything. Nuri Vitachi.